Hello there, and welcome to the Unadorned Bible, the channel where we're reading chronologically through the Bible in 1 year. Our journey today takes us into day 59, and the scripture for today is Psalm 90 and then Numbers 16 and 17. This is the first time we've delved into the Psalms, and I'm going to set the text up in a little bit of a storytelling fashion before we dive into the scripture. So before diving into what we're going to get into Numbers, the rebellion of Korah, we open up with Psalm 90, and this is a prayer from Moses. It's the oldest psalm in the Bible, and in this, Moses reflects on God's eternal power compared to human frailty, and he pleads for wisdom, mercy, and restoration. Then we get into Numbers 16, where we see Korah, Dathan, and Abiram challenge Moses and Aaron's authority, claiming that the Israelites are equal before God. But God himself actually chose the leaders, and then they came up with punishment. And the punishment was that the earth swallowed up Korah and his followers alive. Crazy to read. We'll get to that. The people still, after that, grumbled, and God sends a plague. What happens there? We'll find out. Then we get into Numbers chapter 17, and this is to settle the dispute once and for all. God commands each tribe of the Israelites to bring a staff to the tabernacle. Aaron's staff has budded and blossomed and produced almonds, and that is the sign that God has chosen him for a high priest. And we'll get into all of that. Let's dive in to the text for day 59. We start with Psalms 90. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn us back to dust and say, turn back, you mortals. For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it's past, or like a watch in the night. You sweep them away. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. For we are consumed by your anger. By your wrath we are overwhelmed. You have set your iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your countenance. For all our days pass away under your wrath. Our years come to an end like a sigh. The days of our life are 70 years, or perhaps 80, if we are strong. Even then their span is only toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. Who considers the power of your anger? Your wrath is as great as the fear that is due you. So teach us to count our days, that we may gain a wise heart. Turn, O Lord, how long? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, so that we may rejoice and be glad in all our days. Make us glad as many days as you have afflicted us, and as many years as we have seen evil. Let your work be manifest to your servants, and your glorious power to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and prosper for us the work of our hands. O prosper the work of our hands. Numbers chapter 16. Now Korah son of Izhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, along with Dathan and Abiram, sons of Elab, and On, son of Peleth, son of Reuben, took 250 Israelite men, leaders of the congregation, chosen from the assembly, well-known men, and they confronted Moses. They assembled against Moses and against Aaron, and said to them, You have gone too far. All the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. So why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord? When Moses heard it, he fell on his face. Then he spoke to Korah and all his congregation, saying, In the morning the Lord will make known who is his and who is holy, and who will be allowed to approach him. The one whom he will choose he will allow to approach him. Do this, take censers, Korah and all your congregation, and tomorrow put fire in them and lay incense on them before the Lord, and the man whom the Lord chooses shall be the Holy One. You Levites have gone too far. Then Moses said to Korah, Hear now, you Levites. Is it too little for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel, to allow you to approach him in order to perform the duties of the Lord's tabernacle, and to stand before the congregation and serve them? He has allowed you to approach him, and all your brother Levites with you, yet you seek the priesthood as well? Therefore you and all your congregation have gathered together against the Lord. What is Aaron that you rail against him? Moses sent for Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, but they said, We will not come. Is it too little that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you must also lord it over us? It is clear you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Would you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come." Moses was very angry and said to the Lord, "Pay no attention to their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, and I have not harmed any one of them." And Moses said to Korah, "As for you and all your congregation, be present tomorrow before the Lord, you and they and Aaron. And let each one of you take his censer and put incense on it. And each one of you present his censer before the Lord, 250 censers. You also and Aaron each his censer." So each man took his censer, and they put fire in the censers and laid incense on them. And they stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah assembled the whole congregation against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the glory of the Lord appeared to the whole congregation. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from this congregation, so that I may consume them in a moment." They fell on their faces and said, "O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one person sin and you become angry with the whole congregation?" And the Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the congregation, saying, Get away from the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." So Moses got up and went to Dathan and Abiram. The elders of Israel followed him. He spoke to the congregation, saying, "Turn away from the tents of these wicked men and touch nothing of theirs, or you will be swept away for all their sins." So they got away from the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrances of their tents, together with their wives, their children, and their little ones. And Moses said, "This is how you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works. It has not been my own accord. If these people die a natural death, or if a natural fate comes on them, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates something new, and the ground opens up its mouth and swallows them up, with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised the Lord." As soon as he finished speaking all these words, the ground under them was split apart. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households, everyone who belonged to Korah and all their goods. So they, with all that belonged to them, went down alive into Sheol. The earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. All Israel around them fled at their outcry, for they said, "The earth will swallow us too." And fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, to take censers out of the blaze, then scatter the fire far and wide, for the censers of these sinners have become holy at the cost of their lives. Make them into hammered plates as a covering for the altar, for they presented them before the Lord, and they became holy. Thus they shall be a sign to the Israelites." So Eleazar the priest took the bronze censers that had been presented by those who were burned, and they were hammered out as a covering for the altar, a reminder to the Israelites that no outsider who is not of the descendants of Aaron shall approach to offer incense before the Lord, so as not to become like Korah and his congregation, just as the Lord had said to him through Moses. On the next day, however, the whole congregation of the Israelites rebelled against Moses and against Aaron, saying, "You have killed the people of the Lord." And when the congregation had assembled against them, Moses and Aaron turned toward the tent of meeting. The cloud had covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Then Moses and Aaron came to the front of the tent of meeting. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Get away from this congregation, so that I may consume them in a moment." And they fell on their faces. Moses said to Aaron, "Take your censer, put fire on it from the altar, and lay incense on it, and carry it quickly to the congregation, and make atonement for them. For wrath has gone out from the Lord. The plague has begun." So Aaron took it as Moses had ordered, and ran into the middle of the assembly, where the plague had already begun among the people. He put on the incense and made atonement for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. Those who died by the plague were 14,700, besides those who died in the affair of Korah. When the plague was stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Chapter 17. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites and get 12 staffs from them, one for each ancestral house. From all the leaders of their ancestral houses, write each man's name on his staff, and write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi. For there shall be one staff for the head of each ancestral house. Place them in the tent of meeting before the covenant, where I will meet with you. And the staff of the man whom I choose shall sprout. Thus I will put a stop to the complaints of the Israelites that they continually make against you." Moses spoke to the Israelites, and all their leaders gave him staffs, one for each leader, according to their ancestral houses, 12 staffs. And the staff of Aaron was among theirs. So Moses placed the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the covenant. When Moses went into the tent of the covenant the next day, the staff of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted. It put forth buds, produced blossoms, and bore ripe almonds. Then Moses brought out all the staffs from before the Lord to all the Israelites, and they looked, and each man took his staff. And the Lord said to Moses, "Put back the staff of Aaron before the covenant, to be kept as a warning to rebels, so that you may make an end of their complaints against me, or else they will die." Moses did so, just as the Lord had commanded him. So he did. The Israelites said to Moses, "We are perishing, we are lost, all of us are lost. Everyone who approaches the tabernacle of the Lord will die. Are we all to perish?" This ends the reading for today. Thank you for joining me for day 59 of our chronological Bible reading. Please like, comment, subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's episode, and we'll see how Israel reacts to God's continued leadership. Take care.